Hello, everyone, and welcome to your Daily Detroit. We are back for the week. It is Monday, June 17th, 2024. I am Jer Stays, and to my left is none other than Mr. Fletcher Sharp, who we've got a lot of stories to talk about today, don't we?
Yeah, some good, some not so good, unfortunately.
Yeah, before we get started, I want to mention real quick, it is going to be a hot one this week. A number of cooling centers across the region and in the city of Detroit, I think 10 in the city of Detroit, as well as libraries, are opening because we're going to have some real feel into the 90s and 100s. It's going to be 94 degrees today, a little bit earlier than usual. I think it's like 15 degrees over normal. Please be careful out there. If you've got pets, be careful out there. Like this is going to sneak up on you.
Yeah, if you got pets and you're taking them for walks, maybe try to tend on walking towards the grass as opposed to the cement, because if it's hot for your feet and your shoes, like their pads on their feet are getting torn up, and like I've seen some pets get some infections just from their pads being torn up from the heat. So if you can help it, maybe
shade too.
Yeah, maybe walk them in the shade, maybe walk them a bit later in the day, bring a cup of water so they can have something to drink. Like make sure that if it's hot for you, it's definitely hot for them. Just imagine wearing a fursuit and just existing in this heat. Like you don't want to do that. Don't let them do that either.
Yeah, I took Gabby to the dog park last night because that heat finally broke a little bit, like right before sunset. And it's so important. And, people should know, by the way, Fletcher, that working with animals is actually like something you actually like do.
I do dog stuff.
That should be a shirt. I do dog stuff.
Essentially walking, sittings, drop-ins, whatever. I love pets. Let me love your pet, please.
Exactly. There you go. So I'll put a link to his profile in the show notes. We do need to talk about some sad news from the weekend. This is not great. A mass shooting occurred at the Brooklands Plaza Splash Pad in Rochester Hills, Michigan, if you have not heard. This left 9 people injured, including two children as we are recording this. This happened just after 5 p.m. on Saturday. The shooter was a 42-year-old male who I will not name from Shelby Township because I do not believe in that. I don't believe in sharing that information and creating some notoriety for that person. The victims range in age from age 4 to age 78. Police are still investigating the motive behind the attack. The shooter took his own life hours after the incident, and of course there are mental health support resources in Oakland County for that, and in Rochester Hills. This one, a couple of team members knew people involved in this one. I have friends who live in Rochester Hills. Kind of hits hard, Fletcher. And just a reminder that like this stuff can happen anywhere. And I think there's kind of like this idea that this could only happen in certain neighborhoods. That's just not true, unfortunately.
Yeah, when you shot me the link of what happened, like you're like, it's at a splash pad in Rochester Hills. I knew the Brooklyn. Like I used to live in Rochester Hills. I used to go there. It's jarring because it's like a bad version of when you see somewhere in a movie and you're like, I know that place. I've been there. To see like multiple news outlets recording, B-roll of just the park and just talking about the shooting. You're like, I've been there. Like, I've never, like, this is something you just, of course, bad things happen everywhere, but you just don't expect it to happen at a splash park, like, full of children. Like, it's heavy stuff.
Monstrous behavior.
Like you said, we don't name the person. This is not something where, like, they should get out there and just.
And that, that's a little bit different than I think most outlets because, in Canada and some other countries, they don't name these kinds of shooters because I think that sharing that name, it amplifies that. I know there's a lot of urge in American culture, like who is it and all that other stuff. And if you want to go find it, like it's a Google away, everybody, like if you really want to know. But beyond like a first mention or things like that, I think we could do a lot better in de-glamorizing. And not that this is glamorous, but a lot of people do this stuff for attention.
No, exactly. And like, while the journalist in me wants to know, like, who is this person, whatever, like, who they are doesn't matter. What they did matters. And like, if you take their name and you use it over and over and over, people then copycat. People then
That's the thing
people
people
then
realize.
take that and they're like, I'm doing this because this person did this. I mean, I hate to think about it this way, but it occurred on my birthday, so it's something I have to live with. But Columbine, where like people know the Columbine shooters' names because like their names were put out everywhere, and whenever there's a shooting that happens, like it gets linked back to that. And not only is it bad for the people experiencing it, but the people who lived through the atrocities before like have to then relive it again because you keep bringing those people's names up. And again, it's not about the person who did it, it's about what they did and the people who are affected. We should be focusing on the people who are trying to recover, who are some of them fighting for their lives. Like that's the most important part, not the person who did these senseless acts.
And honestly, talking about policy that might be able to impact this, right? And I think that might be something for a future episode.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
All right, let's change gears. The 32nd annual Concert of Colors is this week. There's a bunch of things happening all over Midtown. In fact, a K-pop dance review and a Don Was Detroit All-Star review, among a bunch of other stuff. The Concert of Colors is a foundational event in Detroit. And if you haven't checked it out, honestly, I haven't been since before the pandemic. So I think I'm going to have to stick my beak into this, Fletcher Sharp.
Yeah, I've heard about it multiple times, but I've never actually gone. So I might actually be there with you checking it out because I've heard only good things. I haven't heard anything like anyone saying they've had a bad time. I've heard people of all ages talk about they've had fun. They've gotten to listen to some music. They've gotten to see some people I haven't seen in a while and just experience down here. And this is a good time to do that for sure.
Yeah, and a great way to bridge divides, right? Because it's a concert of colors. It's bringing people together. And I think so much, we can do so much in the media, but in reality, I think what it takes to bring people together is knowing each other and familiarity and all that, right? Like being around people is what helps build trust.
Yeah, music is a perfect salve to a wound that is unfamiliarity.
Well, it wouldn't be Fletcher Sharp if we didn't get into some sports. There's a couple stories we want to talk about. Jake Bates, a Detroit Lion, 2-year deal. What's up with this? I'm excited.
Yeah, people were wondering why he wasn't signed earlier. It's because the UFL had a thing where people just can't sign their players during the season. And honestly, the coach of the Panthers was getting really fed up with like people asking about, is Jake Bates going to go somewhere? He's our kicker till his year's over. I wish people would stop bothering him. Some people online are like, we're signing a kicker who's only hit 77% of his kicks this year. What you have to realize is of his misses, only one came from under 50 yards.
Wow.
It was a 39-yarder that would be a chip shot, but all of his misses from before are from like 50, 58, and like 62. So like, yeah, I would take that person.
Why do you think a 2-year deal?
I mean, it doesn't really matter in terms of like training camp, mini camp area, because like, he's competing. If he doesn't do well, they'll cut him and just eat whatever it is. But given the new rules, along with how they're fixing kicking on kickoffs,
and those new rules, like a quick update in case people don't know, like real quick thumbnail.
They're gonna try to make sure that like they get some returns. They're gonna try to copy some rules from XFL/USFL/UFL for some safety because no one likes showing up for the kickoff and then the other team, the kicker just boots it out of the end zone. And it's like, why'd you even line up? What was the point of this? Just take the ball at the 20. So they're trying to make it so that there can actually be some contact, some safer contact. And Dan Campbell has gone on record saying he's not above keeping 3 kickers, especially one for kickoff duties, who's going to be making some tackles, and maybe one for long field goals, short field goals, etc.
Really?
Yeah.
That's a whole new strategy.
It is. Like, it changes some stuff for you because now since you're going to have to return, like, you actually need to have some return men. Like, from what I understand, kickoffs are going to, the team receiving is going to be a bit further back, so it's going to lessen the impact of someone sprinting back to then sprint forward. Definitely wedges are gone. They've been gone for a minute, but a wedge was when teams would link up and then run into someone, kind of like an adult version of Red Rover, except with 250-pound men. So, yeah, I mean, I like the idea because you want to see safety. You want to see some contact. Of course, if you're watching football, you're watching American Gladiators just hit each other at the speed of car crashes sometimes. But like you want to see it done safely. And I think if they can add one of the exciting elements back to football, which was a kickoff and punt returns, and do it in a way where like it can occur, but people won't, leave with mangled limbs, or at least as little as possible, I, for one, enjoy it. And I think Jake Bates gives them a leg who can still maybe kick it out of the back of the end zone. But also, if Dan decides to not go for it on 4th and 8 for some reason, he has a kicker who has proven, at least at Ford Field for sure, he can kick the ball 60 yards, which is a weapon, because I can only think of 3 kickers in the NFL right now off the top of my head who can do that. So to have one who's proven to be able to do it it's great to have.
Okay, we'll end out with some Detroit City FC. I was at the match at Keyworth where Detroit City beat Charleston 2-0. Great to see a PK goal by Maxi Rodriguez. Elvis Amo scored in the 4th minute of extra. It's not extra time, but you know what I mean. 90 plus 4. It was great to see that, although the match was very like chippy and back and forth and not necessarily elegant. Detroit City is sitting still at 5th. There's a widening gap when it comes to the Eastern Conference. Even with this win, there's kind of like a widening gap between like the top 4 teams and then like the bottom 4 for the playoffs. What are our thoughts? And a couple other things I want to mention. One, Ali Coote, reportedly, according to Nolan Bianchi over at the Detroit News, will not be coming back. He apparently there's a team in Ireland interested in him. And I think we're in for some switching up at goalkeeper.
Yeah, Ali Coote returning to Ireland, you understand to a degree. He was doing well, but also it was kind of a bit of a stylistic clash with him. There was a few moments where he just was not playing, and it wasn't due to injury, and people were kind of wondering what it was. So obviously it was this. And when he did play, he was great, but I think at times something that was said on the stream that I kind of agree with a little bit. Ben Pierman, former coach of DCFC, now at Charleston, said he prefers American players over some of the European players. And he's like, solely because the American players understand what it's like to play in the USL Championship. They understand what it's like to play soccer in the US and how it's a bit different than other places. So you get more space, etc. And there were times where Ali would play like he was still playing at Bohemians and playing in the Europa League. And it's like, hey, all those step overs and like diving, that's not going to work in Hamtramck. Like, they're not going to give you the call. They're going to look at you and say, get up. So unfortunately it didn't work out, but it was great to have someone here and like brings up the pedigree of the team. And to your point about the keepers, yeah.
I mean, are we ending the Nate Steinwasser era? Are we coming towards the end of this?
Potentially, it looks like it. I was their U.S. Open Cup match, the first one against the Stars. They had Saldana in net, and I was like, all right, that makes sense. He's got to get some run. Their next game against the Dynamo, Saldana's in net. Now I was like, oh, is Nate hurt? I'm like, no, he's on the bench.
Or I kind of thought maybe that Saldana would just be the Open Cup keeper.
I mean, even
to give Nate a break
for sure. But also, like, against the Dynamo, it's like, this is a team you probably want your best 11 on. And then the next Open Cup match, Saldana again. I was like, all right, fair. Maybe he's Open Cup keeper. Then the next game after, Saldana in net, and I was like, all right, this is something. They won, and it's like, maybe he stays in net because they won, and they won again. But like, if Nate's healthy, you kind of have to think, like, is he going to be traded? Which I don't think is a possibility, given he has a day job. I don't think he can just pick up and move. Maybe, I don't know, maybe people should really start to love the next few times Nate gets in net, because it might be the last time we see number one with Steinwasser between the pipes.
His numbers changed a little bit, but were they really that bad? And I also wonder, when I heard Coach Dicchio say, hey, we have 2 number 1 keepers, like, I hear that, and I know some people might look at that as a vote of confidence, but in reality, you don't keep 2 number 1 keepers on your squad, especially when resources are as they are.
I mean, yeah, and I don't really think it was Nate's like, he didn't do much differently. I think the defense at times, I think people are harsh on goalkeepers a lot of the time. I think the defense let him down a lot, and while he did make some great saves over the past years, in order to make a great save, it's because your defense let someone take a shot they shouldn't have been taking. Like, I think even his best save from last year, the game against Pittsburgh in the playoffs, where he made that reaction save, came because someone left someone open for a header. So, like,
well, and we can't discount that Saldana is Dicchio's guy. Like, they have history.
Yeah, he came with him from Sacramento, so I figured he'd get some more playing time just because he is the guy. And no disrespect to Nate Steinwasser, who's great, but he's not Danny Vitiello, who Sacramento has, who's like one of the best keepers in league history. He's up there, I think, top 5 in saves in the career, save percentage, etc. So while Nate is great for sure, Danny has a track record of just you're not going to come in and play unless like I'm not available to play. So I think when Dikio came here, Saldana came with him. He's like, you'll get some playing time here. And credit to Saldana. He's played well when he's played.
Yeah. What do you think kind of going forward with that Charleston win? Again, not pretty, but Charleston is second on the table in the East. Are we kind of settling into that middle slot in the conference?
Potentially. I mean, Elvis Ama coming back and scoring a goal is great. It's second game back. You kind of want to see him get a start the next time he can. I know he's probably building back into match fitness. Reese Williams being back is also good. They are in fifth currently, but they also have 3 games to make up for most of the teams ahead of them, and then 2 with Indiana. So like they can catch some teams, like because of their Open Cup run. As a result, like they were maybe moving some league games, playing some league games a bit later. So like they have some time to now catch up on people. The problem there becomes their roster depth is still not great. They do have a distinct like starting lineup and like backup to a degree, but they don't have like a full 11 switch like most USL teams do. So I think there's a chance they can make a run. It's just now they need to start scoring goals. Like they can keep playing defense all they want to, but they need to start putting the ball in the back of the net.
Well, Louisville City has got a stranglehold on this conference for number 1, but I do think third or fourth slot is entirely possible, especially a fourth slot, which would get us a home playoff game. And that has been a goal of the organization. And if that could get accomplished this year, that would be huge.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I think third or fourth, definitely fourth is attainable for sure. They just, again, have to score goals. They cannot have 3 or 4 games go with only scoring 1 or 2 goals. That's not going to get it done. And I think they know that. And having Amo back should help boost that attack a little bit.
Fletcher Sharp, so good to talk to you. Some of the stories a little difficult to deal with today, but we cover it all here on Daily Detroit.
I mean, that's what real journalism is. Real journalism does real journalism.
Yep. All right. Well, with that, I am J.R. Stays.
And I'm Fletcher Sharp.
Thank you so much for listening. Thank you to our members on Patreon who keep this show going. We've got a new benefit rolling out soon, a Discord for members only. Well, you'll be able to chat with us, get stories, updates where we're at. We really think it's important to support the people who support us. So this will be a way to have your kind of own private news feed and conversation feed with us. That'll be happening sometime this week. So all tiers will be available to that. I'm excited to roll this one out.
Yeah, no, it's good to get some honest, closer feedback from the people who've been helping keep this show afloat. We really do appreciate it. So why not give you the chance to, ask questions like, what type of chips do you like? You'll find the answer there if you get on Discord.
We still haven't done the Paqui chips. You wanted to do those?
I mean, I only really like one, so.
You just want to see me suffer is what I think in this.
I mean, sure, especially when I'm not the one suffering.
Well, thank you so much for listening. Remember that you are somebody, and we'll talk tomorrow.